Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling something that gets misunderstood all the time: organizational culture. We all know that a team's mindsets and behaviors basically dictate execution, right? But here's the catch: it's leadership behavior that actually determines which of those mindsets take hold. Okay, let's dive into this. People take cues from what leaders consistently do, not what they say. This quote, it is absolutely crucial. It completely shatters the illusion that putting up a nice poster in the break room or sending out a slick company-wide memo is going to magically create your culture. We've all seen those beautifully designed core values campaigns, right? Integrity, excellence, accountability. But listen, if you're a leader, your team isn't reading the poster. They're reading you. They are literally watching your every move to figure out the actual rules of the game. Section 1. The true cultural signal. Actions speak louder than campaigns. Because culture is not just some corporate buzzword. It's the reality people experience, not the messages they hear. Think about it for a second. You can broadcast a message about work-life balance 100 times. But if you're emailing your team at 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday and expecting a reply, well, the reality they experience is that they're on the clock 24/7. Your formal value statements have almost zero impact if they aren't backed up by your daily actions. People are smart. They adapt to survive in the reality they actually live in. Section 2. A Tale of Two Teams. The Devolution of Accountability. Let's walk through this downward spiral because it happens all the time. Imagine a leadership team that constantly preaches accountability. A performance issue pops up, and instead of coaching the team through it, the leader just jumps in and solves the problem directly. They probably think they're being helpful, right? But then deadlines get extended without any real consequence, mostly because the leader wants to avoid a tough, uncomfortable conversation. And this brilliantly illustrates how accountability quickly becomes optional. It just becomes a word. Eventually, ownership shifts entirely upward. The team stops taking initiative because, well, they know the boss will just swoop in and fix it anyway. The result, execution completely grinds to a halt. Now contrast that failing dynamic with a thriving team. Over here, the leader acts with accountability. Expectations are crystal clear from day one. Performance discussions are direct, honest, and timely. Yes, the team is fully supported, but they are also held firmly responsible for their outcomes. And you know what happens? True ownership gets deeply embedded in the team's DNA. People start acting with incredible discipline, not because some memo told them to, but because that's simply how work gets done in that specific environment. Section 3. The Ultimate Pressure Test. Revealing True Priorities. So what happens when things go wrong? We call this the organizational crucible. A major quarterly target is totally missed. A terrifying risk suddenly materializes out of nowhere, or you're forced to make incredibly difficult trade-offs with budgets or personnel right this second. These are high-pressure moments. And the fascinating thing about high pressure is that it instantly strips away the corporate facade. It forces leaders to reveal what they actually truly care about when their backs are completely against the wall. And the consequences here are huge. Under pressure, if leaders panic and revert to old patterns, micromanaging or maybe throwing people under the bus, the entire organization instantly follows suit. Everyone realizes the quote-unquote new culture was just a fair weather phase. But if leaders stay consistent and hold the line on their values even when it hurts, that is the exact moment new behaviors take root. That's when the team looks at them and says, wow, okay, no way, they actually mean it. Section 4. Why Delegation Fails. The Leadership Mirror. So the crucial point is this: culture change cannot be delegated. You can't just hand this off to human resources. You cannot hire a fancy PR firm to write a clever internal communications campaign and expect your strategy to just magically execute itself. It doesn't work that way. Strategy execution requires active, personal role modeling from the leadership team. You are literally the mirror the organization looks into every single morning. What exactly do you need to role model? Well, your team is constantly watching how you make decisions. Are you inclusive, or do you just dictate from a closed office? They're watching how you engage with them. Are you present and actually listening, or are you distracted by your phone? Crucially, they're watching how you respond to setbacks. Do you look for solutions, or do you immediately look for someone to blame? And finally, how do you reinforce expectations? These are the arenas where leaders have to show up daily. It's like a giant puzzle, and this is where culture's actually built, piece by piece. Section 5. The Consistency Imperative. Patterns create trust. Look, doing the right thing once or twice just isn't going to cut it. We are all incredible pattern matching machines. Before anyone fully commits to a new direction, they look for patterns in their leadership. When your behavior is consistent over time, it builds an immense amount of trust and clarity. People feel safe to actually execute. But if your leadership is inconsistent, like you're a champion of empowerment on Monday but a tyrant micromanager by Thursday, it creates massive confusion. It completely destroys execution discipline, mostly because nobody knows which version of the leader is going to show up to the meeting. Occasional role modeling is never enough. So, as we wrap up our analysis today, I really want you to reflect on your own environment. If culture truly follows leadership behavior, what signals are you sending every single day? Consider the small, seemingly mundane interactions, because those are actually setting the tone for your entire department. Think deeply about what behaviors you might be inadvertently reinforcing. Like, are you accidentally rewarding the hero who works all night to fix a crisis, while completely ignoring the steady worker who quietly prevented a crisis in the first place? Your team definitely notices who gets the praise. When you are in the crucible, what trade-offs are you making visible to your team? Do you sacrifice quality for speed when a deadline is looming? Do you compromise your team's well-being for a quarterly metric? Remember, they see every single choice you make, and they will emulate those exact same trade-offs. Ultimately, what standards are you holding? Because the moment you change how you act, your team will follow. This has been a fascinating look into the true drivers of sustained performance. But how do we distill this massive concept into something you can actually measure? Well, we'll be covering exactly that in our next explainer. Until then, keep reflecting and pay close attention to the signals you're sending. Thanks for joining me.